How? How? How?
Wait. Is it the full moon in Orange? It's not here. What are you
No,
doing?
no, man. I'm working on my Rishabh Pant is excited behind the stumps impression.
Oh,
Ow! Hello, everyone, and welcome to the good, the bad, and the ridiculous on what has been another dramatic day of Test cricket in Chennai. Bharat Sundaresan joining me here to go through all your nominations. Let's get stuck straight into it. I'm just going to point out first that tonight is going to be a pitch-free zone because I'm sick of talking about pitches. So,
pitch, please. Yeah.
I'm warning you, if you mention a pitch, you're going to get a big woot woot from me to go with my howling. I'm all about the noises tonight. Now, the Aviator, first up, nominates as ridiculous how Ashwin had mentioned last night in the press conference how to bat on a turner and then actually did it himself the very next day. Crazy. That was pretty impressive. You know, and they say talk the talk, but you got to walk the walk. That was some pretty impressive walking after talking from Ashwin. He just played that beautifully.
Oh, he did. It for me, it was a throwback to the time, maybe 2011, 12, 13, when he just broken into the test side. There would be times, Mel, when India would be playing on a tricky pitch at home. The top order would struggle a little. And then Ashwin would come out and play like he's batting on the flattest of tracks. That's really what it looked like today. The pitch was turning a lot. Virat Kohli played beautifully. But yeah, Ashwin walked out and said, you know what? I am the master of bowling on these pitches, but I'm going to show you how I'm also the master of batting on them. I'll show you how it's done and tell you that, but you can't do it when I'm bowling.
Exactly. Look, he wasn't the number one ranked all-rounder in the world for quite a period of time, and I think it's a real reminder of why he was. And there have been times when he's been left out of the Indian side, and it's been suggested that that's because of his batting at certain times. But man, he just reminded everyone of why he had that ranking. And I think you could make a case to say he's now batting. We saw him in Australia, and then here, if he keeps this up, you'd have to say he's batting as well or better than he ever has, perhaps.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, 2016 was the last time he made a test century. So it almost was like Stuart Broad and his batting was dipping very rapidly. But we saw all the hard work he put in Australia, starting from the Drummer and all. We keep talking about it. And it didn't sort of come to fruition in Australia. We saw him play that incredible innings in Sydney to save the test. But now it's coming through. He's looked good in this series so far. But yeah, scoring 100 in front of your home fans on your home ground with everyone cheering for you, it couldn't get better.
Yeah, it was an amazing day, and we've of course got some other nominations that do involve the great man of the moment. One of them is from Arunava Sanyal, nominates as good Siraj celebrating Ashwin's century as if it's his own. We had a whole heap of nominations that said basically exactly the same thing. That looked like it was Siraj's century, and I mean, I just think that's a really lovely thing to see just how excited he is. Someone who's new in this side, and who Ashwin, remember, was the one who was walking him back on his debut in Melbourne and really supporting him along the way. So to see him that excited, I think, was one of the nicest moments of this test match.
He's already turning out to be the most popular member of this Indian cricket team, isn't he? Mia Mohammad Siraj. We saw it in Australia when he got that fifth wicket finally after trying so hard at the Gabba. Everybody coming up to him hugging Jasprit Bumrah, him leading India off the field for the last time in that series. He just seems to love being there, playing cricket, and not just enjoying his own success, but the way he was getting excited today as Ashwin was getting nearing his 100, and the way he got excited about that beautiful front foot defense. And then, of course, with Ashwin telling him that "Tere pe maine bahut bharosa deke strike diya hai," which translates to I've given you the strike, putting a lot of faith on you now. Live up to that faith. What does he do? He gets down on one knee and smashes Jack Leach for a massive 6 over deep mid wicket. That tells you that's a lot to love about Mohammad Siraj.
Yeah, we actually had another one basically saying that from Varandio, Ashwin telling Siraj she's shown faith in him by taking a single so he can defend. Next ball, Siraj goes bang for a six. Although you talk about his forward defence was getting, I think, almost as big a cheer as anything that Ashwin did, any of Ashwin's biggest shots. The crowd was really appreciating his forward defence. I also loved him holding the pose after that big shot down the ground. That was great, holding the pose up there. Even better was the attempt at the helicopter shot. And I'm calling it now. We may be saying it. Siraj, the new Dhoni. Putting it
Siraj,
out there.
I know. I saw someone tweet calling him Siraj Surya, and he did bat like a Surya today, just the way he was taking on the spinners. And yeah, I mean, see, Mel, any man who's ready to experiment with his hairstyle as much as Mohammad Siraj is, it tells you that he's a man with a lot of confidence. That's all I'll say.
I noticed he had a trim. Yes, I noticed that. Now, and we've got another nomination here from Abhijato Sensama, who nominates as good Virat Kohli's incredible control while batting on a pitch where every ball turned like it was a car in the middle of an Indian four-way street. I've seen some of those streets, in particular in Bangalore, where locals ended up holding my hand and walking me across one of those streets because they saw this poor, obviously foreign woman looking completely befuddled. And that kind of was what it was like trying to navigate the ball and the way it turned. But Virat Kohli, he didn't need anyone holding his hand, obviously. It goes to show some of those stats. You know, we all celebrate hundreds and big scores, but that was as good a batting in those conditions as you'll see, even if it wasn't, you know, another century to add to his name. That's got to be an innings that Kohli will be incredibly proud of, even at the end of his career.
Absolutely. And you've been witness to someone taking U-turns on a four-way street. I have been the person taking a U-turn on a four-way street, a three-way street, a two-way street, on a one-way street. Like, yeah, I think we all do it in India. And that's one thing I miss about India, driving on those roads. Now, that's a challenge. You know, people talk about traffic in this country. They have no idea what real traffic is, or, you know, driving within the lanes and across the lanes is. But anyway, that's for another day. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I think it was a masterclass on how to play spin. He might not have got 100, like you said, Mel, but you know, our viewer is absolutely right. I mean, the way he used his feet, and you saw that's the sign of a master batsman, right? A class batsman. He made a mistake in the first innings where he kind of lunged at the ball, big gap between bat and pad. Here, he changed his technique. He was getting to the leg side of every ball so that he could, like, you know, always be in control of where he was, his positioning, and the way he was using his hands very late. Also told you that he'd adjusted, and it's not very easy making technical adjustments in the course of a test, during the course of a test match. Sunil Gavaskar, the great Sunil Gavaskar on commentary, was speaking about how he would never do that. So it takes a lot for a batsman to do that, and to do that the way Virat Kohli did. I remember tweeting saying that Ian Bell had once spoken about how much he learned from watching Rahul Dravid from short leg. I'm sure Ollie Pope was just there, like, you know, learning with every single ball. It was just class batting, and it was 62, greater than some of the centuries he's made.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. Now, Samir nominates as today's funny, so I guess that's ridiculous. Looks like the umpires forgot to remove the price tag from the ball. That was hilarious. Like, it sort of got me to wondering. I thought mostly for tests that they would have the balls come straight from the manufacturer. This made it look like they'd gone down to the local shop and just picked up a few on special.
That's exactly what I thought as well. Like, I saw that moment, like, you know, Joe Root and Jack Leach were laughing about it, and then Joe Root just took something off and gave it to the umpire. And like, yes, Ashwin did hit a couple of sixes, and Rohit Sharma has been hitting sixes the last 3 days, but I'm sure they haven't run out of balls to start with. I was also surprised that the fourth umpire, K and Ananta Padmanabhan, took a long time after the 80th over had finished to even walk out with the ball. Generally, you see the umpire walks out immediately after the 80th over. So maybe they did have to go find it in a shop. But someone just tweeted to me. Apparently, I don't know how true it is. Maybe it is. They sent a video to us. We'll tag him for sure on this video later, about how apparently these SG balls come with a QR code, which is inside the box, and that's what maybe it was like. Our viewers are way smarter than we are, Mel. They know a lot more than we do at times, of course. So maybe that's what it was, or maybe K. N. Ananthapadmanabhan did like walk. There are a lot of sports stores, by the way, just down the street from the Chepauk. That's live TV for you. Well, like, down the street, along the road, along Walaja Road. So maybe he just walked into one of them.
I love the thought of someone running out into a shop and going, "Mate, have you got a few spare balls? We've got a bit of a shortage at the stadium up the road." If anyone knows how much they cost too, let us know that, because if you could read it on there, I'd like to know what it cost them. Now, Avinash Shenoy nominates that Foakes keeps could be a trend. I could just watch a match to see Foakes keep. Good skills, more than good. I think this is definitely one for the good one. More than skills, he makes wicket keeping sexy again. He really is making wicket keeping sexy again. It's been great to watch him. Those hands were just so quick. There was very, very little in at least one of those stumpings that we saw, and I mean, it's interesting to see him keeping up to the wicket for Stuart Broad as well. Whether or not that did cost one catch, because he was up so close to the wickets. But that is really something that you don't see very often at all in Test cricket. Sarah Taylor, she's someone who did, but I think that Stuart Broad bowls a bit quicker than someone like Anya Shrubsole does. So to see him doing that was incredible, and it was just exciting to watch him. He's unbelievably fast. There's a quote about a rugby league player that was made, a famous one in this country, that a certain player was so quick that he could turn the light off and be in bed before it got dark. That's how I think of Ben Foakes. That's how fast he is.
And the beauty of Ben Foakes is that generally when you talk about wicket keepers, you say a wicket keeper has had a good day when nobody's noticed him. But with Ben Foakes, like, he completely turns it around, right? You can't take your eyes off his wicket keeping, especially when he's keeping up to the spinners. The speed with which he pulled off the two stumpings and the run out of Pujara, it was very MS Dhoni-like. At times, he looked quicker. I think the Rohit Sharma stumping was, if anything, quicker. It came down from his shoulder down to the stumps. It's just exceptional. Maybe he could have stood back to Stuart Broad. Maybe he was just showing off a little. Like, Stuart Broad would say that. Poor Stuart Broad, he bowled so well today. He could have easily gotten Ashwin out twice. But yeah, if only Ben Foakes and the Foakes and Stokes show. And, hashtag Foakes keeps for Avinash is really good. But you can also say Ben gives no Foakes about where he's standing or where the batsman is when he comes stumping. If you mess around with the line, the crease, he's going to get you.
There goes our rating as a PC show almost, by me, or a PG show suitable for children. Bringing the tone down, Bharat. No, but he has certainly given a good, I guess, account of himself when there was so much hype about him coming into this test from those who've been watching him in county cricket in particular. But he's done a pretty good fist of making all of those people look absolutely bang on the money. Now, Aravana Sanyal, I think that's one that we had earlier. Maybe you got two nominations in. Nomination for the most ridiculousest ever. Joe Root indicating that the ball missed the bat by just a whisker. Just missed it by this much, as the great Maxwell Smart would have said. That was amazing. I have to say, I do love the fact that Joe Root has, there's a real cliche about playing with a smile on your face. Joe Root smiles when things go wrong. He smiles when things don't go his way. For the most part, he smiles when he's not given out, and he should have been, but we'll get on to that. He's just enjoying himself so much, and I think that's quite refreshing. But yeah, I don't really want to say too much about people who think that what was that is actually that, but we don't want to lose our PG rating after Bharat.
I think we already have. I was just going, no Foakes given. You no, right, I'm not even going to do it. But well, I mean, in Joe Root's defense, if you saw the replay, slow motion replay, he does mutter "my bad" under his breath. After all that, it was just a bizarre. I thought after that Dan Lawrence over, our ridiculous entry would be Dan Lawrence's bowling action. I shouldn't be someone talking about bowling actions, but it was right up there with Virat Kohli and Bharat Sundaresan in that category. So I was enjoying the bowling action, and then Joe Root had to ruin it with that unnecessary review. Like, it was funny, right? The bat was somewhere on off stump, and the ball turned past like leg stump. And when Shane Warne goes on Twitter and calls it the worst test review of all time, you got it wrong. But like you said, something always endearing about Joe Root and his smile, even if when he makes a fool of himself.
Well, I think that the fooling was the fact that the ball turned that much. I think it turned so much. No one expected it to turn that much at that point. I don't know why, because everything else was. But, well played, Joe Root, for at least being able to smile and be a bit self-deprecating about it. And Sunny187 nominates as ridiculous, how in the goddamn freaking world is Joe Root not out? Umpire's call is fine, but common sense has gone out the window. I mean, let's face it, even Joe Root's mum would have said that he was out. Like, that was the outiest out that could be out, really. And it's that whole thing about impact. Umpire's call on the impact. That's all it was, even though it was clear from everything else that was going to hit 10 times out of 10.
Yeah, it looked pretty plumb. And, I am no test umpire, but one thing I try to do when I do umpire at local level is watch the batsman's footwork when he just walks out to bat, when he or she. And do you know where Joe Root, he goes right back in his crease and where his feet are. And once he was given not out for the caught behind, which is what India had appealed for initially. So Nitin Menon gave it not out. He said the ball did not hit the bat. And then they went for the review for the caught behind. And then, of course, as the system is, then you have to check the LBW. And it was just then you're in the hands of technology. So, it was just that one frame. And I know exactly what that one frame is, Mel. So even like the last few days, when you pause something on your TV and try to take a picture, but when you try to pause it, that's when you understand these frames. Of course, they do it at some smaller or like faster frames. So they get more frames, the third umpires, than we do on our TV. But you understand where they would have missed it. And yeah, I mean, you can pick on Nitin Menon, but I guess as an on-field umpire, they'd appeal for the caught behind. He said not out. So I think people have been a little harsh on him. And it's just one of those things. And it didn't look good that Virat Kohli and then Ravi Shastri also charged out of the dressing room. Poor Nitin Menon, caught hold of him. And thankfully the camera kind of went off that scene. But yeah, we saw that happen in Australia, right? The familiarity between umpires and players, Tim Payne and Paul Wilson. So I think we saw a little bit of that there. But, India still have 2 days to get Joe Root out, so it shouldn't be a problem.
I guess the thing is, it's not necessarily just a criticism of the on-field umpire, though. It's the fact that the DRS and the way it's set up with the impact being umpire's call, but the fact that he's off stump, you could actually see his off stump exposed and it's hit him on the back. That the rules are set that there are those green lights and that they take precedence, I guess, over what would be common sense. So maybe it's not necessarily just a criticism of the umpiring on the field, but just it's the common senseness. I always go to, look, if someone knows nothing about cricket and saw something, how could you explain to them how something makes sense? That's one thing you'd have a real trouble explaining to a non-cricket person about why that's not out, because it just doesn't seem to make any sense. That's how I see it.
No, absolutely right. Absolutely right. That's why I never try explaining cricket to a non-cricket person. It takes too long.
Yeah, go away and read the MCC laws. Just go away and look it up yourself. Hey, look, we had so many nominations. I think everyone got caught up. I'm throwing in one for you. I don't know if you've got. I thought ridiculous, definitely, was Ben Stokes walking around on his hands. It's not something I can recall seeing. Maybe trying to outdo Rishabh Pant and his acrobatics, perhaps. But yeah, seeing him walk, I mean, I would have really been more impressed if he'd actually been standing in the slips on his hands while play was on. That would have been probably more impressive. But that for me was pretty ridiculous. Have you got one?
I think I do. On Ben Stokes, yeah, I also thought he was trying to outdo Rishabh Pant. And like when you're the all-rounder, like, one of the world's greatest all-rounders, but they say that you can't bowl. Is that something you want to be doing on the field? Like, you can do that, but you can't bowl. Like, okay, fine. All right. That's a little strange. But anyway, for me, I think the ridiculous one that didn't make it happened very early on in the day. So if this was at the start of the day's play, when they show those slow motion, like promos shots of what happens before the start of day's play, and there was one where Virat Kohli tries to head a ball and he makes such bad contact that you can see that it has hurt him, and then he's holding his head, and he just picked the worst time for them to show that promo because Sunil Gavaskar was on air and he hates these cricketers playing non-cricketing sports before the start of day's play. A quick story: I remember being in the West Indies in 2011 when Ishant Sharma got injured playing soccer, and Gavaskar started hitting his head in agony. So I think he was hitting his head in agony today as well, as Virat Kohli held his head after a very bad header. You should not see it. If you're Virat Kohli, who owns the football team in India, you don't want your players to be seeing that.
Yeah, I know that England have had big debates over whether or not they should play football while warming up as well. But Bharat, the moment has come. Drum roll. What is your goodest thing for the day?
Has to be the cheers for Ashwin as he reached his 100. Chennai has never really had a superstar cricketer. That's why they've gone ahead and embraced MS Dhoni and Suresh Raina and those guys who played for CSK. But today, I think after all these years, our Ashwin became that superstar.
Hashtag knowledgeable Chennai crowd. Then Bharat, what was your baddest thing for the day?
I think has to be the Joe Root review. I mean, DRS is in place for umpires making a howler. This time, a captain made a howler by going for DRS.
Good shout. And your ridiculousest thing for the day?
Joint winners today. One was, of course, Ashwin telling Siraj that I have a lot of faith in you. Tere pe bahut bharosa rakha, and him hitting that six. But then also, I think Rishabh Pant says so many things from behind the stumps. I loved his, when Dan Lawrence stepped out of his crease and flicked one for four, and he said that, ye to Bhagwan ka naam leke kood raha hai, which translates loosely to, I mean, he's jumping out of his crease, just taking the God's name. So, I mean, the good Lord's name. So, yeah, it could go well along with your howling, Mel. There you go.
Not to mention that he's come on Ash, come on Ash, come on Ash, and then he doesn't take the ball, and the look on Ash's face was pretty priceless at that point. And I thought of what you said to me about, yeah, Mel, let's just still wait until he has to keep to spin. I did remember that. So those are the winners for today. Thank you so much for joining us live once more. Please do give us a like and please subscribe if you haven't already. And we look forward to another one tomorrow. Might be the last one of this test. Who knows? But we'll see you then.